On one side, you have Greg Kasavin of Little Giant Games, I believe they're called, from Hades dev. And on the other side, you have Neil Druckmann of Naughty Dog and backing The Last of Us 2. So this tweet's been going around. It's got a little over 4,000 likes right now. And it says, indie game Hades dev versus big company The Last of Us 2 dev. Let's compare this and take a look. Greg says, this is in response, by the way, to Jeff Cagley. Don't know if I'm saying that right. And his Game Awards, which, by the way, more on that in a moment. He says they're authenticated voting. And I really wonder how he's authenticating them. He didn't go on to explain. I went on the website, too, and I couldn't find anything. But anyways, we'll talk about more of that in a moment. So Greg says, it's amazing to see our big little game going toe-to-toe against the gods. Though Hades turned out the way it did thanks to the support of our players in early access. So maybe I shouldn't be so surprised. They've carried us farther still. Thank you all. Very wholesome, very simple, very thankful and grateful. Druckman says, The Last of Us 2 fans activate. As a bonus for every vote you cast for The Last of Us 2, a hater loses their caps lock. This dude's always talking about haters and trolls and all this sort of stuff. Professional victim at its finest. And you know why I really dislike people who do things like that? Because it's, in my opinion, that pretty much everyone in the world goes through a lot of tough times in their lives. Some worse than others, of course. But the point is, for the most part, everyone knows what struggling is like. Everyone has gone through trauma and this sort of thing. And most people keep it inside. They keep it to themselves. Or maybe they share it to a few people around them, but they don't go to the internet and start blasting it to like a giant community. Again, becoming a professional victim, essentially. But maybe this is why. Because if Neil and people like him turn themselves into such, then their white knights can suddenly use that to try to deter any criticism at all. For example, right here, this person responds to the tweet we've been reading and says, Hades creator didn't get threats alongside with the voice actors. The game didn't get review bombed, and people don't get harassed, blah, blah, blah. Amber says, you are ignoring all the legit criticism Naughty Dog threw out the window because of a few lunatics. Meanwhile, the criticism Hades got, Supergiant took, made changes, or justified their reasoning without being something to fans. Probably missed a word there. So I don't know what the Hades thing is about. I don't know what criticism they're referring to. I'm out of the loop on that one. But I can still make my point, and that is this. And by the way, I've received many, many, many death threats myself. Many, many. Mostly from the Ruby community and a few other people from other communities from time to time. And this is the only time I've mentioned it, before now, of course, in a tweet. Never made a video about it or anything like that, not using it for pity points or whatever Druckmann's doing over there. I simply said, and they want to say my community is a problem, because I got a little sick of these Ruby fanatics making up numerous lies about myself and my community, stuff that is totally not true at all, when they send things like this. It's absurd. So I pointed it out once, and that was that. And by the way, I'm bringing that stuff up only because I want to show you that I know what it's like, anecdotally speaking, of course, so make of that what you will. But to me, here's how I handle that stuff. For one, I think most people on the internet are not going to follow through with that stuff. These are just very mad people who are total losers and would never actually follow through with it. That said, I'm not going to be the person to underestimate a loser and actually pay the price for it. So what I do is I contact my local police department. I already am trained in martial arts. I continue training martial arts. I work out, and I arm myself with the things that you would want to arm yourself with. And no, I'm not just referring to what's behind me, if you get the memo. It's just extremely odd to me the way Druckman and Laura Bailey was the VA who was talking about the threats that she received back then were handling this sort of situation. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to show this stuff on screen per TOS, but you can look it up very easily. And that's also going to get to my next point. It makes you wonder, and unfortunately you shouldn't think this way probably, but these sort of people are so untrustworthy and scummy that that's where you can argue the reasonable assumption goes to. And what I'm getting at is the reasonable assumption would go to that these people are kind of just signal boosting this stuff, and or maybe even sending themselves terrible messages to try to get articles like this one created from Polygon. And now back to what I said a moment ago, if you want to look this stuff up, you can type in like Last of Us 2 threats, and you're going to see all kinds of articles, plenty from pretty well-known publications, which most of them are still garbage, but you get the point. They're well-known. A lot of people view them, unfortunately. Not as much as they used to. A lot of these are kind of shriveling up nowadays. But still, the point stands. They all start writing articles about it. It's still technically more publicity for Naughty Dog and The Last of Us Part 2. It wins pity points for their white knights and that sort of thing, people who are easily manipulated. And so if you take a look at these articles, and you take a look at like Laura Bailey, for example, the threats she gets, a lot of them in her tweet that she showed, were from DMs. From DMs. I would imagine if it's that bad, you close your DMs, right? Just a suggestion. And then maybe you do the things I already mentioned. Go to your PD, report it, do these other things. Now, to be fair, maybe they did these things behind the scenes. Yet what they publicly displayed seemed to be just that, a public showcase to win pity points and get publicity. Again, I already said it's unfortunate to have that line of thought, but when you look at the track record of these people, it's really not that surprising if that's the case. Now we're back over to the tweets about Hades and The Last of Us 2. I'm just showing you some more examples of people using that stuff to dismiss criticism and all that. So this tweet, for example, says, Druckmann's attitude is absolutely not warranted considering The Last of Us 2, regardless of your opinion on it, was made by a lot of very talented creators, some of which were overworked. Friendly reminder that crunch is the result of bad management, by the way. And this dude then says, his attitude is absolutely warranted, considering there is an entire subreddit and legion of weirdos committed to slander, threats, and general weirdo against him. What? His family and his employees because they didn't like playing as women. Some more examples, and then we'll start wrapping this up. Druckman has such a bad attitude about criticism against this game, says this person. A lot of people criticizing the game were actual The Last of Us fans. And then this other guy says, I mean, they sent the man and his friends literal threats. I'd say a slightly bad attitude is justified here. Now, here's a hypothetical for you guys. I'm not saying one is worse than the other. I'm just going to ask a question. What's worse to receive, do you think? Threats from anonymous people on the internet? Or let's say you make a video and it gets a malicious copyright strike that's actually not with legal merit, and it damages your channel, it damages your income, then you can no longer pay rent for that month. We can make it really extreme. You know, maybe we don't go that extreme, talk about rent and all that and bills not being paid. I'll keep it simple. What's worse, having some threats online or actually damaging someone's livelihood? I'll put it like that. That's a little bit of a hypothetical situation. I mean, wasn't Naughty Dog issuing DMCA strikes against people who claim that it was without legal merit? Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not saying it was or wasn't. I'm just saying, didn't this stuff happen? What's actually worse? I don't know. It's a question. Okay, anyways, let's end with this. Back to Jeff Kegley from the beginning and the Game Awards stuff. He says, this is it, the final round of the Game Awards. Player's voice. 5 games remain. You pick one as the winner. Last of Us, Tsushima, Hades, Doom, Marvel's, Spider-Man, Miles Morales. And then you take a look here and it says, Last of Us Part 2 at 43%, Ghost of Tsushima at 31%, Hades at 14%, Doom Eternal 9%, and Marvel at 4%. And Last of Us 2 winning by a sizable chunk there. And then he says, this is a 100% fan-voted category. Over 1 million authenticated fan votes in the last round. Watch the results live on the page as it happens. And I thought it was interesting, over 1 million authenticated fan votes. I just instantly think, okay, how are you actually authenticating it? So I went over to the website, and I couldn't find any specific information about the authentication. Maybe it's here somewhere that I just can't find. It does make you log in, but I mean, is that what they're saying is authenticated? Simply making an account and logging in? That's interesting. I don't know, man. It's make of that what you will. But here's the thing. Suddenly, Ghost of Tsushima is at 45%. And The Last of Us Part 2 is at 33%. As of recording this, it is now 12:35 on the West Coast here. So we'll see if The Last of Us Part 2 suddenly ends up beating Ghost of Tsushima. But since yesterday, Ghost of Tsushima has taken the lead. And apparently this is authenticated, right? So, hey, there you go. We'll see what happens with all that. That's all I have to say in this segment. Honestly, I want to cover some more fun stuff if I do a third segment today. There was a lot of, well, not a lot. There was some portions of this video felt a bit heavy, and I want to lighten the mood. So we'll see what else there is to talk about. Might catch you in about an hour for the third. Have a great day.